carjack killer. This is the CBS Evening News. And this is Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. Is the president considering a pardon for one-time Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger on charges growing out of the Iran-Contra scandal? It was Weinberger who had argued strongly against the secret deals that led to the scandal, but he was indicted this year for giving false statements about the situation to Congress. And now apparently his friends are urging President Bush to come to his rescue. Rita Braver has our report.
President Bush's aides had no official comment on a Washington Post report that top Republicans, including Vice President Dan Quayle, are advocating a pardon of former Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger and other Iran-Contra figures. But privately, some officials said the topic of presidential pardons is being discussed within the administration, and one arch-conservative is already going public.
Of course, the president should pardon Cap Weinberger. Cap is one of the heroes of American history. It was on his watch as Secretary of Defense that we defeated Soviet communism.
But it's more than the case against Weinberger that has Republicans angry. Many administration insiders believe Iran-Contra independent counsel Lawrence Walsh derailed a last-minute election comeback for the president. That's because just days before the election, Walsh released new evidence showing that Mr. Bush was aware of the arms for hostage trade earlier than he previously claimed. The president, who's spending the weekend at Camp David, said today in his radio address he takes all responsibility for his election loss.
There must be no finger-pointing, no playing the blame game.
Nevertheless, some officials believe he'd be justified in giving some blame to Walsh and therefore pardoning Iran-Contra figures. But others say that would bring the same public outrage that met Gerald Ford's pardon of Richard Nixon in the Watergate scandal.
It would be a travesty on justice. It would assert that the executive is above the law. And all of this, I think, would cause damage to our political system, and it would cause damage to the Republican Party.
Sources say at this point, any talk of pardons is just speculation. No formal White House discussions have begun, and no one seems to know exactly what President Bush himself thinks of the idea. Rita Braver, CBS News, Washington.
President-elect Clinton spent a quiet weekend around the House today. Of course, a quiet weekend around the House is not quite the same for a president-elect as it is for the rest of us. Richard Threlkeld in Little Rock has our report on that.
President-elect Clinton is spending most of this weekend relaxing here at the governor's mansion. Part of the day he played couch potato, watching the Arkansas-Mississippi State game on TV.
Hangs it up and the ball is caught.
And part of the day he spent at a nearby golf course. Clinton's an enthusiastic golfer, but a year on the campaign hustings has thrown his game off a bit. Next week, Clinton will resume the process of picking the top people to run his administration. A sign that he's something more than just the governor of a small state, his choices to head his transition team, Warren Christopher and Vernon Jordan, two Washington insiders. They'll have their work cut out for them.
The top 3,000 positions in government are now open. In no other country in the world, even when there's a military coup d'etat, do they automatically change as many people as we change.
Clinton's main priorities in his first 100 days in office will be to try to fix the economy, produce more jobs, and reform health care. He's aware that when it comes to getting something done in Washington, less is more.
He really has to pick a very narrow agenda to start with. Focus his priorities, let the country know, let the Congress know, let the media know what it is he wants to concentrate on most.
They've already resolved at least one problem, where the Clintons are going to live after he resigns as governor and before he moves into the White House. The lieutenant governor here, Jim Guy Tucker, says the Clintons are welcome to stay here in the governor's mansion just as long as they'd like, Bob.
Thank you, Richard. In an unusual move, the Vatican congratulated President-elect Clinton today, but expressed concern that he favored abortion rights and urged him not to lead the country into immorality. In Little Rock, however, Clinton's aide said that once in office, he will move quickly to lift many of the abortion restrictions imposed by the current administration. And already those on both sides of that controversial issue are taking notice. Jacqueline Adams has our report.
Just 4 days after Bill Clinton's election, activists on both sides of the abortion battle have returned to the front lines.
We're praying for
In Chicago today, police arrested more than 100 anti-abortion protesters who staged demonstrations outside 8 women's clinics.
Escorts, you're working against them.
By contrast, in Philadelphia this morning, Planned Parenthood officials began training new security volunteers.
A pro-choice president does not fix what you see behind me and does not necessarily stop blockades.
During the presidential campaign, Democrat Bill Clinton left no doubt about where he stands on the abortion question.
As president, I would support and sign a law which enacts by law the constitutional rule of Roe v. Wade to protect a woman's right to choose.
After his inauguration, the new president is expected to act quickly to repeal the ban on abortion counseling at federally financed clinics, the ban on research using fetal tissue, the ban on abortions in military hospitals overseas, to allow the import of RU-486, the so-called morning after abortion pill, and to appoint Supreme Court justices who believe in a constitutional right to privacy. Although abortion rights activists believe American women have won a great victory with Bill Clinton's election, they nonetheless are leery.
Whenever our opposition suffers a setback, they become more violent, more vocal.
Bill Clinton can enact a lot of pro-abortion policies, and we're going to let Americans know just how extreme those policies are and work against them as much as we can.
Indeed, 3 years after he shut down his organization, the Reverend Jerry Falwell said today he may resurrect the moral majority if Bill Clinton extends abortion rights. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, New York.
And still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, a challenge for the new president, how to jumpstart the economy while downsizing the defense industry. And California, there they go, why college students are leaving the Golden State.
When your sinus and nasal congestion feels this bad, what can you do? Last year, you wanted to call the doctor. Last year, you wanted a prescription. But this year, Tavist-D in its full prescription strength is available without a prescription. Just one tablet helps relieve 12 hours worth of painful congestion and sneezing.
Guess what? I'll be there after all.
Tavist-D. One tablet, 12 hours, and now no prescription.
Norelco doesn't just shave close, but incredibly close. Or merely shave in comfort, but exceptional comfort. Because inside Norelco's floating heads, our lift and cut system lifts the hair so when it's cut, it can drop below skin level without the blades touching your face. And once you've shaved that close and comfortable, you know you'll always be comfortable shaving with Norelco. Norelco, we make close comfortable.
Things you never heard about a Bran cereal before.
Wow.
If you've never heard this about a Bran cereal, try Kellogg's Frosted Bran. It's different. It's lightly frosted, and it's crunchy, so it tastes delicious. Kellogg's Frosted Bran. It sure doesn't sound like Bran. Oh, one more thing you never heard.
You know, that's Bran you're eating.
I know, it's great.
UN peacekeepers in Bosnia opened fire today for the first time when their vehicles were attacked as the Balkan conflict is dragged on. Many refugees are now convinced that only the new administration can save them. Martha Teichner has our report.
Hundreds of refugees trying to walk out of Sarajevo today. Fed up with delays, with promises of safe passage repeatedly broken, they set off only to be turned back at gunpoint. In Bosnia's deadly kaleidoscope of shifting alliances, these were Croats being strong-armed by Muslims, normally the underdogs. But it was Muslims, 30,000 of them, who were forced by fighting to leave their homes when the town of Yaitsa fell. On the day the United States elected Bill Clinton president, half the population of Yaitsa was still wandering, unable to find a place capable of taking in any more refugees.
He's their last hope, and if they don't get Clinton in their side, then the Muslims are really finished in Yugoslavia.
Candidate Bill Clinton sounded like a man committed to intervention in Bosnia.
History has shown us that you can't allow the mass extermination of people and just sit by and watch it happen.
But that's exactly what the West has done so far. This was Sarajevo last week. A year and a half of fighting in what was Yugoslavia has created hundreds of thousands of refugees who can never go home.
If Clinton wants to be taken seriously as a new type president, as an interventionist president, then he has to do something to do with the refugees. And that means inevitably money and taking some of the refugees.
Today, 17 busloads of Bosnian children arrived in France, escaping the war, but only for the winter. France has granted asylum to only 1,100 refugees. Britain and the United States, not even half that. With candidate Clinton now president-elect, Bosnia will be watching to see whether campaign rhetoric translates into action. Martha Teichner, CBS News, London.
This is the anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution, but in Moscow, this year's celebration bore little resemblance to celebrations gone by. Jonathan Sanders was there.
On the 75th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution, its remaining loyalists turned out to celebrate. Mostly, they complained about Boris Yeltsin. He has betrayed us, she says. All he's done is raise prices. Since the Soviet Union's collapse, communist crowds have grown steadily smaller, a tiny fraction of Moscow's 9 million residents. Authorities kept everyone off Red Square this year. The city fathers decided Revolution Day was a perfect time to repair the cobblestones. Yeltsin and Gorbachev led the last real parade 2 years ago, already a more modest affair. Before that, the November displays were propaganda extravaganzas, the Soviet state showing its might. But today, not everyone in the crowd wanted to put the Soviet system back together. I just came to look at the circus, he said. This may be a communist holiday, but Moscow's capitalists are the new elite. Hi. They were celebrating tonight at the premiere of an American movie about Stalin. Across town, Stalin and company were remembered differently by relatives of those they killed. We've had enough fanatics, said one priest, and most Russians have had enough of revolutions. Jonathan Sanders, CBS News, Moscow.
Czechoslovakia state news agency says that Alexander Dubcek, the country's former leader, died tonight of injuries he sustained in a car crash in September. He was 70 years old. It was Dubcek who led the 1968 Prague Spring reform movement and was then ousted following the Soviet-led invasion.
It's never been your style to live like anyone else, so why start now? Ethan Allen introduces the American Dimensions Collection. Eclectic and most agreeably priced. For people who really love to live at home. Right now, there's a sale going on at your local Ethan Allen.
Like a rock, I was strong as I could be. Like a rock.
First, J.D. Power & Associates ranked Chevrolet the best full-size pickup in initial quality. Now they also report Chevrolet is the best truck line overall in sales satisfaction.
Like a rock.
Chevrolet, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road.
I used to take aspirin to relieve minor arthritis pain until my doctor told me one Advil is as effective as 2 regular aspirin and is gentler to my stomach. For my pain, I prefer Advil. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Every second of an asthma attack can feel like an eternity. That's why there's Primatene Mist. Primatene opens clogged breathing tubes fast when speed counts. Primatene Mist, fastest type asthma relief without a prescription.
I'm Charles Carroll. We've elected a president. Now will we face the facts, the big city problems that won't go away, this Sunday morning.
Washington will see a lot of changes over the coming months, and nowhere is the potential for change more dramatic than at the Pentagon. That's our Washington Notebook tonight. Peace, the new administration, and the Pentagon. How much is enough?
This election is a clarion call for our country to face problems too long ignored, from AIDS to the environment to the conversion of our economy from a defense to a domestic economic giant.
It sounds so promising. Take the skills of the defense workers and use them to build the world of the next century.
new jobs, a sounder economy. But if it's all so easy, why then are red lights flashing?
If we assume that our litmus test of success here is giving money to a defense contractor so they'll make bicycles, we're doomed to failure. And it's a waste of defense assets to do that.
These empty hangars are where Grumman used to build high-powered jets, but as defense budgets tightened, Grumman tried to diversify and build solar panels and buses. It lost millions and some 8,000 jobs.
The experiences were disastrous. And we're not the only ones.
Now Grumman is back to doing what it does best, upgrading older jets and putting together information systems for non-military customers.
We don't have any great enthusiasm for just waking up one morning and launching off into something that is completely new and foreign to us, because quite frankly, an awful lot of us in this business right now have watched that movie already. And we're pretty sure we know the ending.
Nationwide, the defense industry is expected to lose nearly 1.5 million jobs by 1995. It is serious business for industry giants like General Dynamics, which needs the Pentagon badly just to meet payrolls.
If you jumpstart the economy, there's a place for those people to go. If you don't jumpstart the economy, there's no place for them to go, and all they do is go on the unemployment line.
The builder of the stealth bomber Northrop teamed up this week with a Canadian firm to develop light rail trains like the ones in Los Angeles. But other companies are worried that there is no plan to guide them.
One of the best things that could happen is that there be a strategic plan developed for what our defense posture will be for the next 10 years.
Once that came about, the new administration could begin to develop the weapons really needed to support that strategy, rather than shoring up old companies. Only then could money be freed up to support new, non-defense projects.
We ought not be subsidizing companies to do things they don't do very well. They have to be smart enough to find the markets while we're buying technologies that are important to our economic future.
There has to be new industry that's available before you can attract it. There has to be jobs for which you can retrain before you can do it.
The new president will not be the first, of course, to face tough choices on defense. The hard part will be what it always is. Everyone will want to cut defense spending. No one will want to close the base in their hometown.
Presto has a great idea.
Shoot some slices, shoot some shreds, shoot some salad, salad shooter.
Presto has a great big idea. Professional salad shooter slicer shredder. Big capacity, holds a lot, shoots a lot. Powerful, fast, a variety of cutting blades, so you can point and slice thick, slice thin, shred right into the bowl, even ripple cut. Chop, grate right where you want, clean up easy, dishwasher safe, store anywhere.
Salad shooter.
Original salad shooter and professional salad shooter from Presto.
Monday, I soak my dentures. Tuesday, I brush. Wednesday, I soak.
Wait, Dentu-Creme does it all. Better. Dentu-Creme cleans twice as well as soaks, works faster, and has twice the mint. Dentu-Creme does it all. Better.
1 a.m., still awake. You've got the night flu. TheraFlu introduces new maximum strength nighttime, the strongest hot liquid formula ever made. New maximum strength nighttime from TheraFlu. Maximum flu relief so you can sleep.
Goodbye, old Regal. Hello, new Regal. The 1993 Buick Regal sedan. This story isn't unusual. There's a real love affair between Buick owners and their automobiles. And the latest J.D. Power & Associates initial quality study ranks Regal sedan as the best car in its price class. The great American love story belongs to Buick.
Can newcomers end the Washington gridlock? Clinton Transition Director Warren Christopher and Senate leaders Dole and Mitchell face the nation Sunday.
Authorities in New Jersey today found the body of a woman who was abducted 4 days ago, the victim of an apparent carjacking turned kidnapping. Harold Dow reports.
Okay, fellas, good luck to you, all right?
A search party of 400 volunteers, police officers, firefighters, and just ordinary people joined together in a desperate search for a missing mother. It was the way 35-year-old Gail Scholar was abducted that sent a chill through this south central New Jersey community.
You're going to see a lot of things out there that are totally irrelevant.
The search parties fanned out through this wooded area surrounding the Rutgers University campus. Our Street Stories camera crew was there as investigators zeroed in on a secluded area where other crimes had been committed. It all began last Tuesday night when Gail Scholler went shopping at this mall with her 3-year-old daughter. Authorities believe a man entered their van when it stopped at a traffic light. At first, it appeared to be a carjacking, but it turned into much more than that. Scholar's husband, Robert, reported his wife and daughter, Andrea, missing at 3:30 Wednesday morning. Within hours, authorities found the family's van. It was abandoned. A short time later, and not far away from the van, 3-year-old Andrea was found. She was alive and shivering from exposure, left on the front lawn of this daycare center. But her mother was still missing. 3-year-old Andrea helped police to make this composite sketch of the suspect. A black man wearing a black sweatshirt, blue jeans, and dark sneakers had forcibly taken her mommy away. Thursday, November 5th, Robert Scholar and his children begged the kidnapper to let their mom go.
I'm pleading with all my heart for the safe return of my wife, Gail.
I just want him to let her go. I don't want her to come back home.
Perhaps it was their cries for help or the thought that this could happen to anybody that galvanized this community. Even for hardened police officers who've seen it all before, it hit home.
Your wife and your child running out to the store for milk and bread, and your wife never comes home. That's a tough pill to swallow for anybody.
Lieutenant Casella's search teams were in the woods no more than an hour this morning when word came over the radio.
All right, do you have something significant?
Sergeant, I found it. We just got the location now. It's behind Stelton Lumber.
Gail Scholar had been murdered, stabbed to death, her nude body left in a drainage ditch. But authorities say when this crime began, Gail Scholar was alive and in a very public place.
Deathly afraid. I go out myself, you know, at night, and I'll take the kids with me sometimes, and I'll go to that Pathmark or that Kmart, and it's really scary.
Tonight, a killer is on the loose, and 3 children will never see their mother again. Harold Dow, CBS News, Piscataway, New Jersey.
With the election behind us, the changing of the guard is now formally underway in Washington. That is the subject tonight of Bruce Morton's commentary.
The voters picked the new guy. What happens now? Predictably, some in Washington are already grumbling about the speed of the transition. Why hasn't he named his cabinet yet? He's had 3 days. The fact is, candidates finish campaigns exhausted. The winner in this case could hardly talk. It would be wrong to totter from exhaustion to major decision-making. What may be harder for Mr. Clinton is deciding what he wants to do as president, or at least what he wants to do first. The governor talked about an awful lot of programs during his campaign. He tends, one reporter wrote this past week, to want to say at least maybe, if not yes, to everyone who comes up with a new idea. But the record shows that presidents with short wish lists do better.
That's not the recession.
Ronald Reagan, during his 1980 campaign, stressed cutting taxes and increasing defense spending. As a new president, he asked Congress for those 2 things, and because he was a new president who won big, he got them, even though he was a Republican facing a Democratic Congress. Mr. Reagan didn't press as hard for a lot of other things he talked about, a balanced budget amendment, a ban on abortion, school prayer, and so on. What will be on Governor Clinton's short list? The best guess is some kind of program to create jobs, work on the federal highway system, for instance, and a health care bill. His chances for getting what he wants will never be better than at the beginning, before the inevitable cycle of disappointing some people and making enemies of others sets in. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
California's public universities, they are hard-pressed to make the grade. We'll have a report when we come back.
Every day should start with Quaker Oats.
Oatmeal is back in the news. Doctors confirm again, if you're on a low-fat diet, oatmeal can help reduce your cholesterol. And oatmeal, of course, has no sodium. Also,
Now, there's some good news for you. Of course, I've known that for a long time. I learned it by making Quaker Oats part of my own diet. For my own good heart, my own good health, and just feeling good every day.
Every day should feel this good.
This is one way to cut some fat from your family's diet. This is a whole new way. Introducing New Promise Ultra. The spread that's the absolute lowest in fat of any leading brand. That's right. Promise Ultra is the lowest in fat. Plus, it has 65% fewer calories than margarine and a light, delicate taste. So cut some fat from your family's diet a whole new way with Promise Ultra. Get heart smart.
When the O'Connors, a doctor's family, catch a cold, the doctor recommends Dimetapp. Now Dimetapp introduces Dimetapp Sinus to relieve sinus pain and pressure. Remember, doctors recommend Dimetapp for their families and yours.
If you've been hiding from nighttime cold medicines, try Robitussin Night Relief.
This is different, dear.
It has no alcohol, unlike that other, which has 25% alcohol. New Robitussin Night Relief, nighttime cold medicine from a name you trust.
One of the many casualties of this year's prolonged budget battle in California has been higher education. The state's fiscal problems are putting the squeeze on its once prestigious public university system, and it has forced many students to go elsewhere. Cindy Kennard has our report.
Richard Howard grew up in California's public schools, but when it came to college, he changed his tune. He's now at the University of Nevada in Reno.
It's great. Lots of good teachers. The classes are small, and there's a lot of personal contact.
Howard's not alone. 1 out of 10 students on campus are from California.
This is very unusual. We have not seen this phenomenon before.
Budget cuts, higher fees, and crowded classrooms have triggered protests and a California brain drain. Students traveling beyond the border to surrounding states for college.
It's getting ridiculous. This institution is a prime motivator of our economy in this state, and it's being dismantled.
While California's state university numbers are down, Arizona states are up. 50% in the number of incoming freshmen from California. And the University of Oregon and Eugene up with a 30% increase. And in Nevada, a 50% increase in the number of unhappy Californians.
The school system there is becoming worse and worse, and they're not putting money or effort into it. And you can't get classes, as you can here.
And that's what happened to Scott Grant. The courses he needs are so crowded, it will take 6 years to get what was once a 4-year degree.
Pushes your whole life off just a little bit longer.
And it cost more to cut out of California colleges, but Julie DeMello is willing to pay higher tuition to earn a degree much sooner.
I think that'll put me in the job force, well before a lot of people staying in California.
This migration of students to other states is another blow to the California dream of a low-cost, high-quality college education for all.
Now, that sort of worldwide envied principle is being torn to shreds.
For that reason, many more students are following Richard Howard's lead, like Mitzi Cox. This year, she's at the University of Nevada. Last year, she was Miss California State. Cindy Kennard, CBS News, Los Angeles.
That's the news. Tomorrow on Face the Nation, the Clinton transition chief, Warren Christopher, the Senate Democratic leader, George Mitchell, and the Republican leader, Bob Dole. Then Connie Chung will have the news tomorrow night. I'm Bob Schieffer in New York. Good night.
Experience CBS News.
The Cowboys served up some Texas-style revenge last week. Next on the menu, the Lions. And you thought the election was brutal. Sunday on CBS. I'm a big fan.
This is CBS.
Coming up next in tonight's TV8 News, the debate over abortion heats up in Des Moines with a Jewish leader speaking out against Operation Rescue's tactics.
A Fort Dodge woman worries about her father who's disappeared in his plane in Idaho. And Reba McEntire's plane crashes in Nashville 24 hours after playing a concert in Des Moines.
Steve says more snow and rain on the way, and Jeff with a road victory for the Hawks. TVA News next.
For the beds kids gotta have, it's Kids Beds! Kids know what they want.
Bunk beds! Day beds!
Water beds. And Kids Beds has them all. The best selection at the absolute lowest prices, including 18 different choices of twin full bunk beds with twin-size top bunk and full-size lower bunk. We've got beds for kids of all ages at
Kids Beds.
3715 Merle Hay Road at Douglas, next to Big Sur Waterbeds.
Certain things in life require a healthy dose of patience, like creating 8543 from ICI Seeds. We could have just built in drought tolerance and called it good, but we didn't. Instead, we kept at it until 8543 could also take on rain and turn it into yield. Ask your ICI Seed sales agent for new 8543, because patience has its rewards.
You're watching today's TV8. And this is News Now. This is TV8 News at 6.
Good evening. Thanks for being with us. I'm Sarah Jarvis.
And I'm Steve Oswald. A Des Moines rabbi says his synagogue is the focus of anti-Semitism.
That charge follows a new protest by the group Operation Rescue. The pro-life group today targeted a West Side temple, shouting at worshipers as they attended services. TV8's Jeff Greenwood reports.
Operation Rescue speaks out against abortion and often holds public demonstrations. Today the group demonstrated in front of the Temple B'nai Jeshurun on Des Moines' west side. Group spokesman David Shedlock.
God has spoken on this issue. It's very plain. Do not murder is one of the simplest commands in all of Scripture.
This is the latest in a series of debates over abortion and Dr. Herbert Reamer. Operation Rescue is targeting Reamer because he performs abortions. Group members have repeatedly protested in front of his Clive home. Reamer is a member of Temple B'nai Jeshurun. The temple and its rabbi David Fink support Reamer. So now, Operation Rescue is targeting the temple and its rabbi.
They claim to be Jews, but according to Scriptures, they're not Jews because they don't believe God's word, do not murder.
Rabbi Fink says this debate has gone beyond a difference of opinion. He calls Operation Rescue's tactics and message anti-Semitic.
I think this is an anti-Semitic attack, and I use that word very cautiously. I've never in my 14 years of a rabbi publicly called someone an anti-Semite.
People either coming out of there have claimed that this is anti-Semitic. Well, I'm against anyone or any religion that supports the killing of unborn children.
Shedlock says he's not anti-Semitic because his group targets even Protestant churches supporting abortion rights. But Fink says Operation Rescue has gone too far with a Jewish doctor and a Jewish institution.
There's no question in my mind that Shedlock is a bigot. He is a religious imperialist of the worst order. He believes that any religious tradition except his own is wrong.
I'm not against Jews. I'm not against Jewishness. I'm not against the Jewish religion.
Shedlock says his group won't back down. Jeff Greenwood, TV8 News.
A former Ford Dodge pilot and flight instructor is still missing tonight. Authorities believe his plane went down somewhere in the mountains of Idaho. It's been 9 days since 58-year-old Larry Richards has been seen. Richards' daughter, Allison Kenny of Fort Dodge, says her father is an excellent pilot. She and her sisters are remaining hopeful that he landed his plane safely because he did have food and provisions on board. Richards was en route from Reno, Nevada to his lodge near Boise, Idaho when her and his fiance disappeared.
At this point, I just feel that my dad's alive and time is of the essence, and I just feel that he needs help desperately now.
Richards had just visited his daughter and 2 grandchildren 2 weeks ago in Fort Dodge. He's lived in California for several years.
Well, Iowa House Democrats have chosen their new leadership now that they've lost control of the Iowa House. In a meeting among the House Democrats this afternoon, outgoing Speaker of the House, Bob Arnold, says that he has been chosen as the new minority leader. Arnold says the Republican majority of 51 to 49 is so slim that he thinks the Republicans will have a tough time having strong control over the House.
The Republicans are in control of the House. That makes them responsible for staying with some of the agreements we made last year. We intend to hold their feet to the fire on that, on the budget reform spending reform stuff we passed.
Now, the last time Republicans had control of the Iowa House was back in 1981. Arnold says Democrats have been in the minority before and can survive just fine. He says he thinks the Democrats will take control again in 2 years. House Republicans will meet Friday to choose their majority leader and the new Speaker of the House.
Well, Ames has snared another big concert date. Farm Aid 6 will be held in Ames next April. Right now, the all-day concert is set for April 24th. It's going to be a busy day since Visha and the Drake Relays also planned for that weekend. The director of Farm Aid says Iowa is symbolic of family farming, and that's one of the reasons that Ames was chosen for the site. Last year, Farm Aid raised more than $1 million for food pantries and legal help for farmers. Willie Nelson, John Mellencamp, and Neil Young already are signed up for the Ames concert. Well, country music star Reba McEntire survived a crash landing at Nashville International Airport last night. The plane carrying McEntire made an emergency landing shortly after takeoff. It was a twin-engine jet. No one was injured. The pilot on his way to a Michigan concert date. McEntire was just in Des Moines Thursday night performing at Vets Auditorium here. In March of 1991, 7 members of her band were killed in a crash near San Diego. She was not on that plane. Today, her husband says Reba's confidence in flying has not been shaken.
A lot of people there enjoyed that concert. Well, Steve, what's this about these snowflakes that are going to be turning to rain?
Yeah, it's actually going to be getting warmer. Can you believe that? But tonight could be kind of ugly in places. Here in central Iowa, we have a 30% chance of snow after midnight. Could be mixed with some light freezing rain at times. A low in the upper 20s. But then things do get warmer for a few days, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on.
All right, Steve, and still to come here on TV8 News, Ankeny branches out to bring a new look to the city. We'll explain.
And country fans, have we got a movie for you? It's Pure Country, coming up a little bit later in the news. Stay with us.
For a limited time, every large original crust Bredo special is just $8.88. Imagine slicing into mounds of melted cheese, fresh mushrooms, sausage, and more, all piled high and baked to perfection on Bredo's famous French-style crust. Get 1, 2, 3, or more incredible pizzas with everything for just $8.88 each. Any way you slice it, it's the best pizza deal in town.
A little goblin told me the most delicious baked goods are at Food Saver. The best specials, too. Family pack assorted pork chops, just $1.19 a pound. Nestle semi-sweet chocolate morsels, only $1.29. Chilling spices, extracts, and food coloring, all at half price. Fantastic baked goods and 10 to 30% savings every day. Food Saver, we sell for less 24 hours a day.
Okay, you delivered me my prescription, but can I take it with my other medicine? And what about
Sure, you can buy your prescription through the mail, but it makes more sense to shop with your independent pharmacist, someone you know and trust who will answer all of your questions. Your local pharmacist is an important part of your healthcare team and more reliable than your mailbox.
And will I get drowsy?
Look for the independent pharmacy that displays this sign, not this one.
Save on Hank's Craft Vaporizer, just $6.99, or DeVilbiss Humidifier, only $13.99.
Tonight's TV8 News at 6 is being simulcast on KITR Radio in Creston, 101.3 FM.
Well, there's a new look for a major thoroughfare in Ankeny today. About 130 trees were planted along East 1st Street in Ankeny from Interstate 35 on the east to Trilene on the west. The trees, a mixture of pear and crabapple, were planted by more than 100 volunteers today.
This creates an impression. 1st Street is one of our main entranceways to the city, and having it be visually appealing when you enter the town is a wonderful thing.
The trees were provided through $16,000 in grants and contributions. Now plans are underway to extend the plantings further west next spring.
An Ames man convicted yesterday of first-degree kidnapping, robbery, and burglary made an initial appearance today on charges of first-degree murder. David Tillman Jr. was charged yesterday with first-degree murder in the slaying of Tony Jean Bryant. Bryant was found dead along the railroad tracks near Ames Main Street earlier this year. The woman whose complaints led to that first-degree kidnapping charge charge, told authorities that Tillman confessed to her that he killed the other woman with a sledgehammer. A Des Moines teenager is in critical condition today after a car pedestrian accident yesterday. Albert Wayne Cook was hit after darting from behind a bus on Southwest 9th. Police say Cook tried to cross Southwest 9th and was hit by a car. He's suffering from serious head injuries. Police say the accident was not weather-related.
Folks in Iowa and Nebraska may soon be lining up for a new lottery game. Officials from the two states may be meeting later to talk about a shared lottery. Nebraska's governor says at this point negotiations may be a bit premature, but Tuesday, Nebraska residents approved a constitutional amendment to allow a state lottery. Iowa lottery officials say they want to talk with the folks in Nebraska to talk about the idea of a joint mega jackpot. Well, country music is certainly burning up the charts and growing in popularity, too.
And now country singers are making the crossover to the movies. Our movie critic, John Pascuzzi, has a look at the film Pure Country, starring George Strait.
You know, country singers crossing over to become actors in films is nothing new to